Kia ora everyone, Andrew here. Welcome to my YouTube channel of hiking and photography adventures in Aotearoa. So I've got a little confession to make with all of you today, and that is that I am a massive nerd and I love general knowledge. Random facts, bizarre things that no one knows, I can't get enough of them. The more obscure, the less practical or useful, the better. And with photography and hiking, it's no different. There is a host of random facts that I've collected because I'm obsessed with them that, to be honest, don't really assist me with my photography in any way whatsoever. They're just kind of cool things to know. And since I love sharing those facts, I'm going to share them with you. So, warning you right now, if you just like to know what cameras do for you and you don't really care about the nitty-gritty and the weird technical details and the quirks and the explanations for what this means and what that means, this video is not for you. You should flick over right now and go search for some cat videos or something, because you're going to be asleep in like 10 minutes, I promise you. Unless like it's 11 o'clock at night and you can't sleep, then you should keep watching because I'll put you to sleep. But if you're like me and you love random stupid facts, you kind of might enjoy this, so stick around. We'll try to keep this as brief as we can. It's a little complicated, so I'm going to assist myself and assist you with understanding with some drawings on my trusty iPad. Apologies in advance, I'm not a good drawer, that's why I'm a photographer, not a painter, duh. But today we're going to talk about focal length. What is focal length? Most of you will know that focal length is one of those two critical measures that are on lenses that you buy. So you have your focal length measured in millimeters and you have your aperture. Now we've talked about what aperture is. It's the opening in the lens that lets light in. But what's focal length? Well, it's a measurement, right? So it's probably the measurement of the lens. It's what you'd think, right? Well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. So if we take a theoretical simple lens, which is just a piece of glass or other material that lets light through and focuses it to a point, then the focal length is the distance from that piece of glass or whatever that lens is to the point where the image is focused. So examples of simple lenses are a magnifying glass, a telescope, eyeglasses, the human eyeball, for example. I'm not sure what its focal length is, but it's pretty small. It's the distance from your eye on one side to your eye on the other side, at the back of the eye where the picture appears and goes in your brain and does all its brain picture stuff. So that's a simple lens. If a camera lens was a simple lens, got one here, you could simply measure from wherever the bit of glass is in this lens through to the image sensor on your camera, and that's your focal length. Now I've got two lenses here. This is a wide angle lens, an 8 to 18 millimeter. This is a Telephoto 100 to 400 millimeter lens. I'm going to use these two lenses to explain why that doesn't really work for a camera lens and what is actually going on, because it's kind of interesting. So the first thing to understand is that a camera lens is not a simple lens. If you were super rich and like breaking things, you might grab one of your lenses worth many thousands of dollars and just chop it in half and see what's inside. I don't recommend it. Bad idea, but if you have a look on the internet, you'll find some photos where people have done exactly that. And you'll see that a lens is not a single simple lens. It's a whole weird collection of bizarre lenses of all different shapes and sizes that runs right from one end of the lens to the other. Kind of looks something like this, but like not so stupidly badly drawn. Now you may have heard people describe lenses as belonging into one of three categories based on their focal length. Those are wide angle, normal, and telephoto. I shoot with micro 4/3, and for micro 4/3 cameras, a 25mm lens is considered normal. Anything with a focal length less than 25mm is considered wide angle, and anything over 25mm people will refer to as telephoto. Now, why am I doing the old scare quotes? Well, because it's not quite that simple, you see. So we talked about how with a simple lens, the distance from the point where the image becomes sharp, which is obviously your sensor in a camera, to the lens is your focal length. So if we take these two lenses, this one has a focal length range of 8 to 18mm. So in theory, the distance from the sensor to the glass element in this lens would be 8mm at its widest and 18mm at its longest. This one, 100 to 400, the distance would be 100mm or 10 centimeters at its widest and a whopping 40 centimeters at its longest. Now, I'm sure you've probably already worked out the problem with that. This lens is quite a lot less than 40 centimeters long. So how on earth can the focal length be like, let's say the sensor's here, how can the focal length be here? It doesn't make any sense. It defies physics. It's nonsensical. I'm going to confuse you even further. On a micro 4/3 camera, when the lens goes on the camera, the sensor is not right here at the back of the lens. It's actually back a bit further. It's about 20mm inside the camera. If you pull the lens off your camera, have a little gawk inside, make sure it's turned off first, you'll see the sensor in there and there's a bit of distance. So it's about 20mm. It's certainly more than 8 or 18mm. So I've got two lenses here, one whose focal length means that the lens should be inside the camera, the other where the lens should be. Are you nervous? Is that freaking you out? I'm holding the lenses like that. I'm slightly freaked out. There's concrete below me, but I won't do that anymore. And then you've got this lens, and the focus point's like out here somewhere. That doesn't make sense. I've lied to you, haven't I? Focal length has got nothing to do with distance of the lens. Well, it kind of does, and with simple lenses, as I said, that's how you measure them, and they do exist. There are 500mm lenses that are like this long. They look ridiculous. They're absurd. They're also really cheap. You may have heard of another very long lens. It's called a telescope. They're quite long. You might have seen them around. Imagine one of them just whacked on the front of your camera trying to hold this 15-foot long tube. So there's two ways that manufacturers get around this, and that's by exploiting these weird little elements that are inside the lens. And the first of these is called a telephoto. Yes, that's right. A telephoto is not just a long lens, it's a particular type of lens. Fun little fact you can use to annoy your photography friends, because they may not know that. They'll insist that a telephoto is a long lens. No, it's not. And now you know. Now you can be that annoying fact-bearing person that I love so much. So what is a telephoto? Well, a telephoto lens is a lens with a telephoto group. So it's one of the little elements that you'll find inside your lens. It's a bunch of weird shaped lenses kind of fused together. And what those elements do is they move the point where you would measure your focal length. So when you've got lots of bits inside your lens, you can't measure just from the lens. So you measure from a point that's known as the optical center. And the optical center of a complex lens that's got lots of elements can be in any number of different places, and it can even move as you change your focal length, like this. What a telephoto group does, it actually moves the optical center out here somewhere, outside the lens. It's bizarre, crazy, I know, but it's physics. It's totally legitimate, I'm dead serious. So the optical center is somewhere out here, and that's what you measure. You measure from there to the sensor. That's how you get a lens that can be 800 millimeters and it's only this long. Because obviously wielding a lens that was 800 millimeters long would be a nightmare. It wouldn't fit in your carry-on luggage, it would just be awful. So to keep lenses smaller and more compact, you have telephotos. Okay, so what about this guy? We've solved the problem of the telephoto lens, but what do we do about a lens where the focal length is less than the distance from the image sensor to the physical back of the lens? Well, the same way, exactly the same way, but in reverse. So this time, instead of moving the optical center of the lens out beyond the front of the lens, it's moved out beyond the back of the lens, and that is called a retrofocus lens. Now, retrofocus lenses are very, very common with wide-angle lenses, particularly with DSLRs. So with a DSLR, you've got this kind of totally pointless and obsolete and completely irrelevant, don't know why they still make them, but they do, whatever, mirror box in behind the lens that goes like this, and then the sensor. So you've got an even bigger gap between the mount and the sensor, which means that with really wide angle lenses, there's physically no way you could fit them in. You'd need like this kind of weird tube that would stick in. Actually, they do make lenses like that, they do exist, and you have to deactivate the mirror and lock it up so that this back of the lens can go right through into the camera body, because otherwise the mirror would kind of bang it when you take the photos. Stupid, again, annoying, dumb solution. So for those people that insist on having DSLRs, they need lots of retrofocus lenses. So there you go. You've hopefully learned something today that you can now take with you to annoy and pester your photography friends with all your bizarre facts that you've learned. So there's not 3 types of lenses, there's 5 types of lenses. There's wide angle lenses, there's normal lenses, and there's long lenses, and then you have retrofocus lenses, and you have telephoto lenses. You're welcome. All right, everyone, that's enough for today. Those of you that are still awake, thank you so much for watching. Those of you that have fallen asleep, I hope you have sweet dreams. And those of you that have gone off to watch cat videos, link them in the comments below so I can go check them out too, because my girlfriend Angie, she loves cat videos. So if you've got some good ones, let me know. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Let me know if there's any random odd little quirks of photography you'd like me to discuss next. Otherwise, we'll see you very soon for another adventure. And until then, I hope you'll stay safe, take care, and be happy and healthy people. Goodbye, everyone.